Hi everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Elke Feuer. I'm an author and a fiction book coach, and I'm really just an author on her own journey, trying to help as many writers as possible along the way. Tonight's topic is how and where to find affordable editors. Now, when it comes to finding editors, or I should say editors in general, it can be a tricky thing. I know a lot of writers are just like, I can't afford an editor, so I'm just gonna go with friends or, people that I know, like your English teacher or things like that. And I always say, if you can, always make sure that you are budgeting for at least one professional editor. I know that can be challenging because there's a lot of expenses that go into, especially if you're self-publishing your own book, it can get expensive. But it's just one of those things that it'll be worth it in the long run. Even if you're somebody you consider yourself an editor, even editors get other editors to edit their book, and that's really how important it is. But having said that, I know for some people that's just not an option, or they've looked and they have either had really bad luck with editors who have ripped them off or haven't returned their work until they got, it's just been a nightmare, or they're just really expensive and out of their budget. I'm going to share with you some ways that you can find affordable, reliable, trustworthy editors, as well as tips of what to look for, what to watch out for when you are looking for an editor, especially if it's somebody that you have never worked with before. And then I'm going to answer some questions that were posted in the group earlier today. So I'm going to dive in and answer those questions. Where to find the editors? The first, most top of my list that I recommend is other writers who have used editors before and their recommendations, because it's someone that they vetted, someone that they use. I don't always recommend my editors because they tend to be a little bit on the high end, but I am trying out a new editor myself that came recommended by somebody else who's a little bit more affordable. So I'm hoping that that's a relationship that I am able to cultivate that will save me a little bit of money, but it's also coming on the recommendation of another author who uses her. And the reason why she's so affordable is because she's just starting out. That's to my benefit and her benefit because she's getting clients. That's the first thing, is that it's someone who's recommended by another writer who have used them before. The second place to find editors is within Facebook groups. There's a lot of groups, writing groups especially, that will have editors inside of them because they are looking for clients and they're looking to connect with writers. So that's a really great place. I know a lot of people who have connected with editors that way because it's somebody that they've interacted with, they've gotten to know, and they feel that they can trust them. You can also find really affordable editors on two places. One, Fiverr, which is an online site, and also Freelancer. Now, the thing to watch out with these two, yes, they are cheaper. However, I recommend that you look at their previous ratings of other clients. If they have one or two, I would say avoid it if possible. And then also on Fiverr, they have a level, what they call a level one, like a level one, I can't remember the term. It's somebody who usually has a lot of reviews and they're vetted by Fiverr and known as a good, reliable source. That is what I would recommend if you're going to go that route. If, like I said, look at their reviews, look to see where they rate on the site itself, because the site will usually rate them as a way to protect you as a buyer of using their service. If you go that route, like I said, you can get really affordable ones, and that's what you have to make sure that you're looking at. Another place that you can find editors is on LinkedIn. I was in LinkedIn groups, and that's where I connected with one of the writers that I've been using for 8 years. And I met her in a group and we just started chatting, and I really liked the advice that she gave and the way that she connected with people. She was very professional, but also very down to earth. And I tried her for the first time. She was a little on the high end, but totally worth it. She had over 30 years experience, and she also has other editors that work for her. The only drawback is that she doesn't work with every single genre. And that is something that you need to make sure that you're looking at as well. Do the editors work in your genre? Because editing, it can be specific to genres as well. Some editors prefer not to work with certain writers that write certain genres. So that's really important to look for as well. That's how I met my editor. She was in a LinkedIn group. LinkedIn groups are really good. You can also, like some of the other sites, will have recommendations so you can check and see other clients that they have and what their clients are saying. I also recommend, if it's somebody who has a website, to check out their website and see sort of what their requirements are, if they have their contracts posted, all those kind of things. It will really give you a good idea of whether this person is professional or whether they are going to basically take your money and run. That's something to look at as well when you're looking into editors. When it comes to, those are sort of the primary areas. I know that there's other ways that you can find editors. I don't recommend those just because they're high risk. If you're just randomly searching for someone, saying editors, and you're trying to find that, I don't recommend that at all. I always recommend sort of going this route to start with until you've worked with a few editors and you feel comfortable with what to do and what not to do. I really recommend that. Now, I talked about some tips and things that you need to look out for. I kind of mentioned one or two as I was talking through where to find them. The first thing you want to look at is if you connect with an editor and they're like, yep, I'd love to work with you. And they say, okay, they'll send you, a lot of editors will send you sort of not really a contract, but it's sort of a form that you fill out letting them know a little bit about your name, how many words, what type of editing that you have, things like that. If they have something like that, that's a good sign. If they don't, that to me is a red flag, because that means that they haven't gotten to that level in their editing business to be able to do that. Because even the editor, the new editor who just started her business that I'm working with, she had all of that. As well as the next point that I'm going to talk about is a contract, because the contract isn't really just there for them, it's there for you as a writer as well too, because you really want to make sure that it's clear what the agreement is between you and the editor as far as the type of editing that they're going to provide, that your work is yours and not something that they can take. Not that that really happens, but it's good to have it in writing. And just there's a lot of other conditions that are really important, and the biggest one being that they agree to return your work in the time frame that they promised. And this is a big one, because I know authors who've had where they're working with an editor and they think everything's hunky-dory, and then the editor has held their work for months. And I'm not exaggerating when I said that. And I was flabbergasted and completely floored. Now, not to say that if you don't have a contract that can't happen, but if you have a contract, then that is something that you can use to take action on. If they don't have a contract, that to me is a huge red flag, because that contract, like I said, is not just there to protect them, but it's also there to protect you. Another red flag for me is if they ask for all the money up front. Now, I know editors who've been burned and they have, they require a deposit. That's not unusual, especially if they're working with you for the first time. However, most editors will either, if you're working with them for the first time, require a deposit, and then they have their payment plan clearly laid out, as well as the fact that once you send the last deposit, balance I should say, then you get your work back. So it's a way to protect them, to make sure that they get paid. However, if they're asking you for all the money up front, that is really, really high risk, in the sense that they've got all your money, and if they choose not to return your work, you're out of all of that money and no book. That is another thing to really watch out for when you're looking and working with editors. Those are my tips for finding affordable and reliable editors. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments. The questions was, do you have to go through a publisher to get a good editor? And the answer is no, because obviously self-publish authors. They don't have the option to go through a publisher to get editors. And there's a lot of really good editors out there. It's just a matter of finding and connecting with them. Don't feel that you have to go the traditional route in order to get a good editor. Where do I find reliable, affordable editors? And hopefully I've answered that question for you. If you're watching the replay, you can go ahead and post any questions that you have, and I will make sure to come around and answer them for you. If you're curious about self-editing, perhaps you want to make sure that you know how to do that for yourself before it goes to a traditional traditional editor or professional editor, then I'm going to leave a link to a video that I did about self-editing. There's also a free resource that I have that's on the K-Writers website, www.kwriters.com, that it's called the Ultimate Writing Checklist Bundle, and within that is a checklist that's all about how to self-edit your book. It's the 4 phases of self-editing your book. And the video, I actually dive into that particular resource when I go through as far as how to self-edit your book. And that's a process that I use myself. Now, obviously, everybody tends to kind of develop their own process. That one's mine. And if you're sort of new to the self-editing world, then it's a good way to start. I think that's it for tonight. I'm not seeing any other questions come up. So thank you guys so much for joining me tonight for this Q&A session. And I hope that you found the information helpful. And I will see you in the next video.